What's going on, everybody? My name's Chris. Welcome back to Bourbon Sane. Today we have got another review, and this is a brand new release that just dropped out of Woodford Reserve, the Woodford Reserve Distillery Series Tawny Port Finish. Now, Woodford Reserve puts out Distillery Series quite often. You know, there's been multiple different expressions over the years. One big call that I really liked was the Double Oaked out of the Woodford Reserve Distillery Series. And they are usually experimental bottles that they only put out either in the gift shop, and you can order online, or local areas to Kentucky, or states surrounding there. So this was a sample given to me from Woodford. Extremely grateful for that, but of course I'm going to be honest and transparent in the review. So what this is a blend of bourbon and rye from Elizabeth McCall, who's the master distiller over at Woodford Reserve. And what she did at that point was finished it in tawny port barrels. Now, tawny port is just a type of wine. Usually imparts more fruitiness to the bourbon when you do finish it. So we'll find out if that's the case. They did not disclose the ratio of bourbon to rye. And me as a whiskey nerd, I would like to know that. Like to know the ratio to just see, is it more rye, more bourbon, whatever. And then also for how long they finished. So just by sometimes nosing and tasting the bourbon, you're able to kind of tell how long it's been finished. If you get a lot more tannins coming through, like wine tannins. I'm not going to go into all the details, but a lot of times we'll be able to tell how long, if it was just a couple months or if it was a couple years, because that stuff happens sometimes. So let's go right into it. Start with the color here. It has got a very nice oily, dark color. I mean, most brown forman I have is quite dark, you know what I mean? They just, that yeast strain and whatever they do with their bourbon, it makes it quite dark. But this almost has a little red tinge. Could be me, my eyes just tricking me, knowing that it's port finished, that I'm seeing the red tinge, but it seems to almost like a wild turkey red tinge, but darker. So let's go into the nose. Wow, that is strong banana. It's like banana runts. Runts I had a lot as a kid. Banana was always my favorite flavor of that, but it's got that brown forman banana note. A lot of people say, oh, you don't smell banana in Brown Forman or Jack Daniels or whatever. It's like, yeah, I do actually. I really do. But this is almost like a candied banana. It's like a sugared candied banana. And there's a lot of clove and a lot of nutmeg coming through on this. So a lot of baking spice. A lot of baking spice profile, which I get a lot from Woodford Reserve as it is. But the fruit, there is a lot of fruitiness as well. Probably from the port, but it's not overwhelming the nose. It's definitely not light fruit, though. If anything, it's very, very dark fruit. I got raisins and plums. Almost like a chocolate-covered raisin. Again, that brown forman gives me that chocolate where it's like it's not like a dark chocolate necessarily, but almost like a chocolate chip cookie chocolate, Very nice nose. Very pleasant nose. I forgot to mention, this only is 90 proof, 90.4. And, of course, no age disclosed either. But low proof, not for everyone. But we'll go into it, see what we think. Wow. Woo! There is a lot of rye influence on that. I'd immediately hit my palate and just washed over the back of the palate. Good mouthfeel. Good finish. Surprising for only 90.4 proof. Usually it takes more than that, but everything on the nose is really coming through on the palate, honestly. It's got that classic Brown Forman Woodford Reserve profile, and not very drying, though. Whatever they did with the finishing on the wine, they didn't overdo it because it's not drying too much. Yeah, very dark fruit forward. I mean, a lot of fig, a lot of raisin, as I mentioned. There's no bright fruit in this at all. It's all dark fruit. So if you like those classic bourbon notes and you like dark fruit notes that come through on your whiskey, this is one for you. Let's give it one more sip here. One more sip. Wow. That's a dessert bourbon. That is absolutely a dessert bourbon. It's like a chocolate-covered banana in a glass, When I first got into bourbon, I used to buy just Woodford Reserve picks, like single barrel picks. Not even the double oak picks. I obviously, when I got further into bourbon, I got those. But this has taken me back to the beginning of starting to look for picks at all, and getting the Woodford Reserve picks, it's giving me that flavor. They were probably very similar proof, actually. And interestingly, with Woodford Reserve, most of their picks, they are actually batched together. They're not single barrel picks. They're small batch picks, so 2 to 3 barrels depending on who's picking. At least that's what it was locally for me. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, this definitely has more depth and complexity than those single barrel picks did. But those were great value, like $30 for one of those picks back in the day. And that was even for like a liter bottle, I think, too. Yeah, but I had a few of those, and this brought me back to that. You know, it was one of those nostalgic drinks that really just took me back to when I first started into whiskey and I was trying everything. And those were some of my first store picks I ever bought. So that was kind of cool. You know, it took me down memory lane on there, and that's what you want. Like in bourbon, you want it to be experiences. You know what I mean? Take you places. You just sit and relax and don't think too much. Just enjoy the drink, and you never know where your mind might go. So, but I think this is really good, really good. And their distillery series is always something unique. As mentioned in the beginning of the video, I mean, there's multiple different expressions they've had over the years, and I like the experiments. I really do. You know, I think distillery should always be progressive and try new things, try different finishing, try different different barrel types, wood types. I like that kind of stuff myself. Like I said, as a bourbon nerd, that really interests me. So I really enjoy it. One other thing I'll mention is I was talking to someone online the other day about this, and proof is a big issue with a lot of people. You know, being in bourbon for so long, obviously we love the barrel proofs. You know, we love the high proof, and yes, I can't argue more flavor, typically more depth and complexity comes through, but there is absolutely a place in the world for lower proof bourbons. Not only for people that are just new to bourbon and new starting in their journey themselves, but I think if done right, a lower proof bourbon can really give you a great experience. You know what I mean? As mentioned, the rye really comes through in this. I'm guessing it was higher rye than bourbon used in this. Just my thoughts. But because of that, you know, it gave me a much better mouthfeel, much better finish. The coating was there, even at the lower proof. You know, even at only 90 proof. So that's not always easy to do. You know, if I go to the store and I pick up a low proof bottle, if it's just a general bottle I've never seen before, a lot of times it's very run-of-the-mill and average. You know what I mean? So there is something to be said about what Elizabeth McCall and other master distillers that are doing it at these places are doing. You know, there's a reason they're in the jobs that they're at. They're experts in the field. You know what I mean? And whatever she did on this one, she did well. You know, they timed the barrels right, and I'm a real fan of it. All right, so the Tawny Port Finish from Woodford Reserve is available at the distillery, and the only downside with this is it only comes in a $3.75 bottle. Cost is $64.99, which that has always been my biggest gripe with the distillery series. Also, I live in Michigan, so I can't ever really get them unless I go to Kentucky and get them, which I have, you know, a few times. But that's the biggest downfall. You know what I mean? Like, we all want to try these great limited expressions if we can, but price is so tough. $65, and we know the $65, that's like the perfect price point for bourbon right now. So many great bottles you can get at that price point. And even similar bottles, like Brown-Forman bottles, you know, that you can get at that price point. So that's the biggest downside. But if you do want to try it, and I mentioned you like dessert bourbons, that flavor profile, classic bourbon and finished bourbon specifically, you can get it from woodfordreserve.com if you live in certain states. Or if you're heading to Kentucky, of course, get it from the distillery or local. There's a couple local shops around it that are going to have it as well. So it's definitely one you should try if you can. You know, like mentioned, price is going to be the biggest obstacle for most of us. But if you can get your hands on it, it's worth a try. Well, thanks for watching the review today, guys. I hope you liked this review. Hopefully, I'm one of the first people to put out this review for you. I haven't seen anyone else who's reviewed this yet, and I was super pumped to get this and try this. And bring it to you. You know, for those of you that love finished bourbons, I hope you check this video out, and I want to hear your thoughts. Have you guys tried anything from the distillery series before? If so, what were some of your favorites? You know, let me know. I just saw today a TTB label was approved. I think it was for an American Single Malt 12 year from Woodford Reserve. Had a couple American Single Malts lately, and it's kind of converting me a little bit. I really, really liked it. So I'm excited to try that one. I hope I can get my hands on that and at least get a sample of that to try as well. Because that definitely interests me too. So one other thing I want to ask you guys is, as you can see, I have a new setup today. So I broke out the shelves, just a cheap shelf. But I put most of my bourbons out here now at this point, which is crazy because I used to have that entire wall, about 500 bourbons, and I'm probably down to 200, 250 now. These are stacked very deep in the on the wall, and I got a few more over there as well. But would you like it? Do you like this setup where I'm kind of offset and you can see the bourbons? I like that. I kind of like having a table too. I have a high table as well, so I was debating about doing a high table. I asked my wife, and she's like, "Nobody's gonna care about this. Nobody's gonna care. You're just so OCD that you just want to do it." I'm like, ugh, yeah, I know. But I'm curious, does it matter to you guys? I mean, hopefully you'll watch either way, and you'll enjoy it. For me, I like experimenting. You know, this is like a good live stream setup for me, I feel like. And I like the higher table kind of when I'm doing blinds and flights and stuff like that. So, but either way, thanks so much. If you guys want a closer look at what I have on the bar, what I've gotten in the last 4 or 5 years, go check out my Patreon page. I'm going to be putting out a video of just a bar tour of on my Patreon, so you guys can see what I have, anything I've drank, haven't drank, and see what's coming next. You know, a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff there. So I appreciate y'all being with me today. Thanks for hanging out. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming out here and at the website. All right, stay insane, everyone.